Hello everyone, myself Kumari Shikha, and I'm going to discuss the next part of genome-wide association studies, where I will discuss about the various results that we get after doing the analysis and how to interpret all those results. If you don't have any prior knowledge, then kindly refer my first part of on this topic that is already available in Concept Learning YouTube channel, and kindly like and subscribe this video if you like this video. The first GWAS result, that is the QQ plot, that is also known as quantile plot. It provides information on two main aspects of GWAS data: whether the statistical testing is well controlled for challenges such as population stratification, and whether there is any association. What does it mean? It means that कि आप जो भी population जो आप जिसमें आप study कर रहे हो, क्या उस population में क्या सब populations present है? Because if it is present, then it would give you the false result. So it's better to know about whether the subpopulation is present in the studying population or not. Second thing, it provides the information कि आपका जो SNP और एनी काइंड ऑफ मार्कर और ट्रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट के बीच में जो एसोसिएशन आपने जो फाइंड आउट किया है, वेदर इट इज सिग्निफिकेंट और नॉट. सो इट प्रोवाइड्स ऑन information on this two particular data. So here you can see this particular graph where on the x-axis negative log 10 of the predicted p-value, which indicates the association between the marker and the trait of the interest. And here the p-value, that is the observed, negative log 10 p-value of the observed is presented on the y-axis. And this particular straight line, that is blue in color, going to the origin straight. If your estimates fall on this particular blue line, it means that there is no significant association between the trait of the interest and the marker. If your estimates or results it rise of this particular line that you can see here, this particular green line, then it means that there is strongest or significant association is present between the trait of the interest and the marker. And here each dot represents, this particular each dot represent a particular SNP. In this way the QQ plot is interpreted. Second result, that is Manhattan plot. What does it mean? It is a kind of a scatter plot that show on which chromosome number significant SNPs are found. So here you can see this particular x-axis chromosome number are depicted. If a particular crop or individual is having the 44 chromosome number, then haploid content will be the 22. So in this way the haploid chromosome number of a particular individual is present on the x-axis, and the negative logarithm of the p-value is presented on the y-axis. And here you can see different colors are there which represent the SNPs. So here you can see log 10 to power minus 15 value. It means that 10 to power minus 15 p value, each this particular dot is present. It means that this particular dot that is representing a particular SNP, it is having the strongest association with the trait of the interest. So in this way the Manhattan plot is interpreted, and on which chromosome number it is present. Here you can see this purple color, the SNPs, which are you can see it is present on the chromosome number 19. So it means that this particular SNP is present on chromosome number 19, and it is showing the strongest association with the trait of the interest. The second it is result, that is Loken-Zoom plot. In the first slides of the Manhattan plot, it was not clear whether there was one SNP or two SNP or three SNP that is associated with the particular trait of the interest. If we want to have a closer look, at a particular region of the interest, so prefer the locus zoom plot. It will give you the detailed information and how many S&Ps are significantly associated with the trait of the interest and in a particular region on on which chromosome number. The third GWAS result that is very much important, that provides the information that whether the population in which you are doing the study, it is having the subpopulations or not. So for to know all those information, you have to do the principal component analysis. So it's a kind of dimensionality reduction technique. What does it mean? It means that if you are having the three-dimensional data, then it is converted into the two-dimensional data or the one-dimensional data. It means that you are reducing the complexity of those variables. For example, if you have to study thousands of variables, obviously it would be difficult for you to interpret that. If it is converted into 10 or 20 variables, then obviously it would be easy for you to interpret all those variables. So principal component analysis do the same thing. For example, you can see here the CIMMYT has did for the wheat germplasm, whatever they are having the collections. So what they did the PC analysis for all the wheat germplasm that they are having in their gene bank. So they found that the wheat germplasm were distinguished into two groups, the first group and the second group. The first group consisted of the CIMMYT varieties, advanced breeding lines, varieties released in India, and the genotypes from other countries. So it means that they are having a similar kind of the origin, or they are having the similar kind of the ancestry. The second group that consisted of the Jamplas, those which are derived from the Afghanistan land races and the Afghanistan varieties. So it means that these particular individuals are related by ancestry and these are derived from the Afghanistan. So in this way, the wheat germplasm was grouped into the two categories of the population. So before conducting the GWAS statistical data analysis, you have to do the PCA analysis. Else, if you don't do this, then you will get either the false positive or the false negative association. In this way, principal component analysis corrects for the population stratification. So it's very much important to know about all these three major results that we get in the GWAS analysis. In the next slide, here I have listed the pros and cons of the GWAS. So obviously after when you will see the first part, I have just mentioned how it reveals the number of loci contributing to a particular trait. It provides the higher resolution power. How it provides the higher resolution power? Because you are doing the analysis in the natural mapping population, so all kinds of recombinants are available, so it provides the higher resolution. And in case of the GWAS, there are various models are there. One of the model is the mixed model, which reduces the false positive association. False positive association means that if you have found a particular SNP that is significantly associated with a particular trait, you have found this result that you got the significant association between these two, but actually there is no significant association. You got the false result because of the any kind of the challenges such as population stratification or because of the hidden ancestry and many more other reasons. So in this way, you can use this particular mixed model to reduce this false positive association. Maybe in the next slide, I will read different kinds of the models that are utilized in case for the GWAS analysis. So here in the cons, obviously for the GWAS analysis, it needs the pedigree data and the updated software tools. As it is based on the statistical analysis, so you have the knowledge about the statistics before doing this analysis. Rare variants and the small effect size increase the false positive. Rare variant means in a case of a 10,000 of a population, if a particular individual is showing the disease resistance, then obviously it will have the chance to get the false positive association. It requires independent groups from different populations. Obviously, you have to collect the individuals from the natural population, so you need a large independent groups, and its management would be difficult for you while doing the analysis. So these are the major pros and cons of the GWAS data. So thank you for watching this video.